Hi. This is my second talk at the Geodesign conference on big 3D models. And if you saw my first one, you might have thought, well, that's a very elaborate model. And as I've now gotten more into the practice, you'll see that the models are getting bigger but simpler. I am now have been working with the cities of Boston and Cambridge to develop a single data model to cover the entire, well, this piece of the metropolitan area. And we've got certain design principles oriented towards managing information in a responsible way. We're starting with the existing GIS planimetric data, and we're building that out with 3D information so that the municipal GIS stewards can routinely update and improve this model by exchanging 3D models with architects, developers, and designers within the city, and doing so in a way that we maintain a catalog of design proposals, both approved and those proposals that weren't approved, and we can also remember the past form of the city. The idea is to keep this maintained on a routine basis. It needs to be as simple as possible. So we've started by taking the existing 3D or the existing 2D data about the city and integrating it with a new source of 3D models, which I'll show you in a minute. That creates a citywide model that can be used for citywide analyses. But to exchange information with the design community, we are able to clip out what we call sandbox models so that designers can work in the context of the place as it is, but also to have a view of the place as it will be once the projects that have been approved are built. So a common operating picture of the future condition. Designers use this sandbox to develop their own proposals, and we've developed routines for integrating those proposals and approved projects back into the citywide infrastructure so that the next sandbox that we put out has those proposed models included. So here's an example of a part of the city of Boston which you won't recognize because it has no buildings on it, but this is the part that comes from the existing GIS planimetrics. You can see that the existing, it normally doesn't look this sexy when you look at it in 2D, but by taking the tree points and overlaying them with LiDAR, we've figured out how tall the trees are. We've got the points for the street lights and park benches and so on. And notice how nice the terrain looks when mapped with the walls. You can really see a very detailed terrain model there. There's a new source of 3D data that's very inexpensive that now Cambridge has bought the entire city, $250 per square kilometer. It's not perfect by any means, but it can perform as a context for design studies. So you Bostonians will recognize City Hall, and there's an ornamental sort of steampunk space needle, if you will, fits perfectly at scale in City Hall Plaza. And so we can use this model to explore how those things look from different parts of the city using the citywide model. We can look at that from Harvard Square, or we can look at it from the Boston Public Garden. Now, this wholesale automatically created 3D models aren't that great when you get up close, but this system is a platform for improvements. And so with a database structure that allows you to store alternative models and to suppress the old models, we can keep multiple versions for different purposes at different levels of detail. So there's the model from Google's 3D warehouse. There's another model that was developed by Parsons Brinckerhoff for the Central Artery project. And all these assets, as they come into the city, can be saved and reused or just looked at later, perhaps just for historical purposes. And so I won't spend too long with this geeky stuff, but the data schema is very simple. We can suppress old models. We never delete them from the automatically generated snapshot. Will be a historical record of the way the city was recorded. But the models can be suppressed and other models can be designated as the current model or some alternative low detail model or high detail model. So the way this works is, the way the design review process works traditionally, the designers or the proponents of projects have to deliver a PDF document to the design review board. We've now added a piece. Now this isn't, set in stone or policy yet, but we're hoping to sort of persuade people to do this, that proponents will get a sandbox model. This is Kendall Square in Cambridge, that shows the projects in the pipeline, okay? They would use this model to prepare a site model. Now it has to be very simple shell model with a ground plan that they would submit to the city. We're also experimenting with thematically textured models that would show land use and show particularly the way the building meets the ground and the things that the design review people are interested in. And they submit this as a simple KMZ. Now, I know that KMZ is a really nice format when everything needs to be very simple. So I'm hoping that KMZ imports will be integrated into ArcGIS Pro. When those models come in, the GIS folks have a form they can fill out that specifies what date this proposal is supposed to come online, and they can input that into another feature class that specifies what its status is, when it's supposed to appear, and when it might disappear. And that disappear field, of course, is most important for preserving the way the city was. So when we take models away from the current condition, we don't delete them, we simply put the disappear date so that you can roll the model back in time. We also keep track of the source materials. For all of these projects, the source materials record the intention of project. So it's not enough to just have a model of the physical form of the thing. We need to have the proposal and all of the original source documents, the editable model in case we need to go back and make revisions, and so on, and the exchange model, so that in addition to this GIS-oriented thing, we keep a library that allows us to go back and understand why things were built, what were the promises that were made for a particular proposal, and also ideas about places that weren't approved. But we can then model the past of the city and the future of the city and the alternative futures that were not pursued. So through this process, we've come up with several challenges, okay? The technology is the easy part. The policy, of course, is difficult. The reason why this isn't necessarily going to be successful is that developers don't share information until they're forced to share it. They won't share models unless somebody says, this is a requirement for a design proposal that you share your models, and GIS people aren't in the driver's seat when it comes to that. Putting new technology in front of designers is easy. Getting them to use it is not so easy. So people like to use SketchUp, so we hand them SketchUp models, so on and so forth. And so we're hoping that'll cause some change. Training the GIS staff, that we've intended this to be very simple, but they're not 3D designers, and so there's opportunities to do training there. So we plan to hopefully continue to improve the models. Bridges and viaducts need improvement. The Olympics are coming to town, so we're hoping to make sandbox models. Well, not necessarily coming to town, but we've put in, Boston and Cambridge have put in a bid for the 2024 Olympics, so hopefully that'll be a great opportunity to show how this works. And of course, the map is never finished, and so there will hopefully always be work to do to maintain the past and the future representation of the city of Boston. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.